"What are you building, little one?" Tulith's mother asked, leaning in the doorway watching her youngest and brightest child fiddle with a strange-looking contraption. "I am not sure," Tulith replied, one of her antennae drooping in confusion as she stared at the triangular machine. "I think it is some kind of transmitter." Stifling a laugh, her mother asked, "But if you are building it, how can you not know what it is?" Giving an exasperated sigh that sounded much too worldly to be coming from a child so young, she answered, "I almost understand it. I am having some trouble with a few things, but I have help." "He is not my pet. He is my friend," Tulith said tartly. "And yes, he is helping me with this." Giving a soft laugh, Tulith's mother left the doorway. "In any case, have fun, little one," she called back over her shoulder. Tulith nodded in reply, all her attention on the small device in front of her. Tulith's mother knew her child was a prodigy. She showed an aptitude for both science and music, and had invented a new form of communication device that somehow melded the two. Something about using vibration as well as frequency. It was all above her head. It did, however, ensure that the world government would put her in the best classes and pay for her further education. And as for her human helper, Tulith's mother was not concerned. In a way, she was kind of proud that her child's imaginary friend was one of the 3 destroyed races. True, there were maybe 200 surviving humans scattered across the galaxy, hiding and trying to scratch out a living, but the chance that one of them was in contact with her child was laughable. The fact remained, Tulith's future was bright indeed. In fact, word of her invention spread, and many races have shown great interest in this new technology. Sadly, one of those races were the Kreen. The same Kreen who were the reason that the humans, the Nulai, and the Sabo were all destroyed, all sent to the Great Dark, all removed from the galaxy as if they never existed. How the Kreen came to possess such a weapon is unknown. All that is known is that the Kreen decimated a peaceful race they found and stole this technology. It took them from being bullies and brutes to being the most powerful race in the galaxy overnight. The Kreen first used their doomsday weapon on the Sabo. The Kreen wanted some mineral-rich planets close to the Sabo homeworlds. The Sabo contested, and the Kreen simply removed their entire solar system, all sent to the Great Dark. One moment the Sabo were there, the next, destroyed beyond all hope. Panic spread across the galaxy. The destruction of a race was bad enough, but obliterating their entire planetary system was unheard of. Not a rock, not a speck of dirt remained floating in the void where the Sabo once dwelt. A couple of hundred cycles after the removal of the Sabo, the Nulai attacked the Kreen. Whether this was an attempt to capture this weapon for themselves or to prevent the Kreen from using it again, the galaxy would never know. The Nulai were a secretive people, and that led to their downfall. The Kreen sent the Nulai to the Great Dark, their entire homeworld gone, destroyed, in the blink of an eye. The remaining Nulai surrendered, and almost every living Nulai is now a slave to a Kreen owner. And then there were the humans. The humans, rather than attacking the Kreen, studied what they could of the weapon. The top human scientists and minds all worked on the problem for decades before they found out that though the weapon was powerful, it was very slow to recharge after it was used. The humans felt that it took about 100 of their Earth years to charge the weapon. It had been 50 since it was last used. This launched the humans into action, and for the next few decades, the humans dedicated themselves to creating the largest war fleet ever seen. Tens of thousands of ships, all made for one purpose, the destruction of the Kreen. The Kreen caught wind of this and began to panic. Witnessing the armada leaving the human system filled them with untold fear. There was no way that the Kreen could defeat the human war host by military might. They had to turn to their greatest weapon, which the humans knew could not be used for another 20 years. It appeared the humans were wrong. In the 80 years since last being used, the weapon was able to be used, and the entire war fleet of humanity, along with their homeworld, were destroyed, all sent to the Great Dark, all sent to death. The entire galaxy mourned the loss of the humans and their attempt at defeating the Kreen. After that, none stood against them, and now, the Kreen turned their bulbous, greedy eyes toward the Partuth and Tulith's invention. They already demanded the prototype, as well as any schematics and technology associated with it. They also demanded a tithe from the Partuth, one which they could not possibly pay. They threatened to send the Partuth to the Great Dark if they did not comply. Tulith's mother sadly shook her head. If Tulith wanted to imagine being friends with one of the destroyed races, let her. She felt it was already a foregone conclusion their own race would be joining them soon. It had been hundreds of cycles since the Kreen destroyed the humans, and she felt the Kreen were itching to use it again, to remind the galaxy who was in charge. That invention, the High-F communication array, was sitting on a small table in Tulith's bedroom, while she worked diligently on her new masterpiece, whatever it may turn out to be. "How is it coming?" a voice crackled from a small box on the table. "I am having trouble with the power," Tulith replied, her brow furrowed in concentration, both antennae straight and quivering with effort. "I see now how this design will work, but if I wire it in, I am sure it will blow the main nodes." "Did you power down the subcapacitor before attaching the new power source?" the voice asked. The voice laughed. "You are anything but dumb, Tulith," it claimed. "In fact, you are one of the smartest beings I've ever known. I blew 3 of these exact prototypes myself before I thought of doing that." Smiling, Tulith powered down the device, attached the wires properly, and then powered it back up. "Great," the voice replied. "Only 2 more to go. Go ahead and turn it on. Let's see if I can detect it." Tulith moved her finger close to a clear white button. At that moment, her mother reappeared in her doorway. "Who was that?" her mother demanded. "They were aware," Tulith replied quickly. "I told them many times I was working with a human friend on this. Didn't I?" she finished, looking at her mother. "You're human?" Tulith smiled. "I told you so." Shocked silence was the only reply Tulith's mother could make. What can you say to one of the last members of a decimated and dying race? And all of this because a talented girl invented a new communicator. "That wonderful invention," Tulith's mother said softly. "I am so glad she created it." Dorneth, Council Lord of the Kreen, sat bored. Today was the day he got to send the Partuth race to the Great Dark. Sure, there was a council hearing where the Partuth got to plead their case, but Dornath already knew what he was going to do. The galaxy needed a reminder that blind obedience to the Kreen was the only way to survive. As the other council members drifted in and took their seats, the representative for the Partuth appeared, peering timidly around the room as she entered. Dornath sat up and blinked slowly. "A child? They sent a child?" A murmur rippled across the chamber as council members saw the young Partuth girl walk to the podium, prepared to plead her case for the survival of her race. Giving a low chuckle, Dornath said into the broadcaster, which echoed his words around the great chamber, "Let it be known that the Partuth chose to insult the council by sending a child. It is a feeble attempt to sway the council with sentiment, and it has failed miserably." He smacked his gray, fleshy lips before continuing. "And also, let it be known that the Kreen have little patience for such distractions, and reserve the right to execute the Partuth representative at our leisure." He leaned back in his chair as it gave a groan beneath his great weight. The young Partuth girl bent and removed from a satchel a pyramid-shaped device with a clear white button. Dornath eyed it warily. It had to have been scanned before entering the chamber, so he knew it was not a weapon or an explosive, but it was unorthodox to say the least to bring a machine before the council. "Child," Dornath said slowly, "do you have the authority to address this council? Are your people aware we will hold your words as binding, and you speak for your entire race?" "I do have the authority given by my world government to speak on behalf of the Partuth," she said softly, the microphones embedded in the podium hardly catching her words. "Then your race is a race of fools," Dornath croaked out a laugh, one which the galaxy may not have long to suffer. A ripple of wet, bulbous laughter echoed from the other council members. "Well then, Dorneth said lazily. Let's hear what the larvae of the Partooth has to say to the greatness of the Kreen. The child nodded her head and stepped closer to the podium. Esteemed members of the Kreen Council, the child began. My name is Tulith, and I am the inventor of the high-F communication device you desire. Ah, thought Dorneth. They sent the inventor herself to gift us the communication device. Wise, but still will not save them. His eyes lingered greedily on the device Tulith had placed on the pedestal. You chose our race to threaten with the Great Dark, to destroy us as you destroyed 3 other races before. None stand up to you because they fear you. They fear you because they fear the weapon you control. Tulith said calmly. They fear your lack of restraint and your brutish ways. Dornath hissed, We do not threaten to destroy you, child. We control whether your race lives or dies. It is as simple as that. More humility and less insults may serve you better. Turning her back to Dornath, she addressed the rest of the council. If you were to use your weapon against us and send us to the Great Dark, we could not stop you. Our second best hope is that you see the cruelty of your ways and decide to spare us. Dornath snarled, Enough insults, child. Be gone with you. If you place your hopes on us sparing you, your best hope is wasted. The decision is now made. Due to the insults from the Partooth representative, the Partooth will be sent to the Great Dark. Instead, she said louder, her voice becoming firm, our hope lies with our friends and the ignorance the Kreen display about their own weapon. The Great Dark is death, as your race will soon see. If that is what you believe, you fat toad, you are a fool. Silence greeted her words. No one in living memory had insulted the Kreen, much less one facing extinction from their greatest weapon. The Great Dark is not death, she yelled into the chamber. It is another dimension, a time and place outside our galaxy, existing on another wavelength, another frequency. You sent the Sabo and Nulai to the farthest reaches of this unknown dimension, maybe beyond all reach and hope, but we will see. The humans, however, you sent too soon. Your device was not powered up enough. They are in the Great Dark, but very, very close to our own dimension. You see, when I invented my new communicator, it was able to attune itself to the vibrations of this new realm, this Great Dark. Tulith said matter-of-factly as she walked back to the podium and stared right into Dornath's bulbous eyes. And you will never guess who called to say hello. Dornath sputtered in anger. Tulith just smiled up at him. To call the humans back, we need 3 waypoints they can latch onto, broadcasting in our dimension but vibrating in the frequency of the Great Dark. 1 waypoint is on my homeworld. She paused a second. In my bedroom, to be precise. For a second, no one moved or said a word. Kill her, Dornath demanded, pointing at the child in front of him. Kill her now and make it slow. An alarm klaxon sounded through the room. Attendants were running from terminal to terminal, panic on all their faces. Council Lord, someone yelled. Ships, hundreds of ships, no, thousands, too many to detect them all. What nonsense is this? Dornath cursed. I will have your skin for this, he yelled to no one in particular. Counselor, an attendant said, fear in his voice. Our satellites, they are all gone, all of them. We are blind. More running and cursing and yelling echoed in the chamber. Dornath turned in circles, demanding answers to yelled questions that no one heard over the din. One adjunct yelled, Council Lord, 2 of our cruisers have engaged what they are calling overwhelming forces. They report. The comms just went dead. They no longer reply. Dornath turned and stared at the small child as Kreen ran all around him, panicking and trying to make some form of sense of what was happening. Seeing his eyes on her, she smiled and did a low bow from the waist that the Partooth people did when they were being lauded for some great achievement. Yes, what about the damnable ships? The attendant swallowed hard as more alarms sounded. This message is to the Kreen. Your worlds are going to be destroyed. Your slaves are going to be freed. Your lives, they are forfeit. Your race has proven itself to be beyond redemption. and as quickly as that, the video cut out. Where she had been standing just seconds before, there on the floor was a small box-like communication device. A sheet of paper was attached to it. Darnath walked to the box as people dashed around him, some running for their lives, others just running. As he picked it up and tore off the sheet, just as the first impacts from the human ship's weapons began to tear the chamber apart. And before he died, Darnath, the leader of the Kreen, the Council Lord, read off the sheet. To the Kreen.
If you finish this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.